States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alrighty. Roll call. Kelly, can I get a roll call vote, please, for attendance?
Yes. Director Yuhan.
Here.
Director Schulberg.
Here.
Director Lotiger.
Here.
Director Sather's here. Director Addy.
Here.
Director Sorkin. Here. And Director Gentilini.
Here.
All members are present.
Okay. 4.0, approve the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move.
And moved by Director Sather. Support by Director.
You, Director, support.
Okay. Any discussion? Can I get a roll call vote to approve the agenda?
John.
Yes. Director Schulberg.
Yes.
Director Lotiger.
Yes.
Myself, Director Sather's a yes. Director Addy.
Yes.
Director Sorkin.
Yes.
Director Gentilini.
Yes.
And Director Yuhan.
Yes.
The agenda is approved.
5.0, approve the minutes of the special meeting of Tuesday, June 23, 2020. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes, please?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Motion by Director Yuhan. Support by Director Addy. Any discussion? Any discussion? Can I get a roll call vote to approve the minutes, Kelly?
Yes. Director Lotiger.
Yes.
Myself, Director Sather's a yes. Director Addy.
Yes.
Director Sorkin.
Yes.
Director Gentilini.
Abstain. I was not present at the meeting, so I will abstain.
Yep. Director Yuhan.
Yes.
Director Schulberg.
Yes.
That passes 6-0 with one abstention.
Okay. 6.0, approve the committee recommendations for band trip.
Mr. Chair, I have invited Jojo here tonight to go through what the committee recommends.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. So on can everyone hear me?
Yep,
Yes.
You're good.
Yeah. So on Thursday, we had a Zoom meeting, and there were, 6, 7, 8, 9 of us present. There were 3 reps from the fine arts. There were 3 reps from athletics, and then Angie, Todd, and myself were also on. We just started out with kind of the rundown in case everyone wasn't caught up on what had happened up to that point already. After that, we had good conversation. Everybody the whole time had students interest in the forefront, and it was evident throughout that. So at the end, Angie and Todd and I thanked everyone for their participation, their willingness to be there, and kind of take into account all sides. So we talked about how many students are going to be affected by all the. We also talked about what other schools do, if we could possibly move the musical, all of that stuff. I guess that's set by Virginia, and they like to have it set by now, so that we're going to tackle that one. Spring coaches made a good point, just that spring is hard because we have a lot of terrible weather, so there's a lot of rescheduling already. There might be graduation, all those other things that obviously happens to every other school, but it's just less and less games. And then just and I made the point of other schools having band concerts that they didn't think of, then you cancel more games. They cancel more of those games. There actually are away games, but just because they didn't know it. So the spring sports, as we all know, are a disaster. But so in the end, this is where I'm going with this. A coach made a suggestion that since I think golf, depending on the one in the cities, wasn't going to miss anything this spring if the city's one was a week later. Tennis was going to miss 2, baseball 2, softball 2. Who else is there? Track was going to miss 1 meet, both boys and girls. And I had said that we would be able to reschedule those, or just cancel them up front. And we called Masabi's just because we're lucky to have turf in our backyard here. So I worked with a lot of her to try to get here. But in the end, the coach said maybe your spring concerts could be on the weekend, such as a Sunday instead, so that would be another open date that we could have a makeup game on. Because really there's been some planning, and myself, for sure it was my own fault, that we had band and athletics at the same day, so people are running from their games, just barely making it to band. So Kevin then contacted Rita. Rita had nothing to do with this, and Rita agreed that they would be able to do that concert to a Sunday so that it would be up at least another date for varsity and JV games. So we looked at the March 15th to the 21st beach meet state basketball. We knew that one wouldn't work. We looked at the 22nd, I believe it was, through the 29th. That's the last speech meet, as Jack had said last time, and also the spring musical is the 25th to the 28th. That's Virginia with Gilbert. So then Monday the 29th through, like, say April the 4th or something, we know that's Easter. So then the only thing left was April 5th to 11th. And because the fine arts and the band and choir and orchestra were willing to move those concert dates a weekend, a Sunday, everybody in the end, nobody objected to the 5th through the 11th. So the band, what we are recommending as a group from Zoom would be April 5th to 11th. Any questions? Sorry, I kind of talked a lot, but I just wanted to recap what went on in the meeting.
Thank you for doing that, JoJo.
So it was good. I mean, I just set it up, but it was good. Everybody participated, and we all were leaders in this.
Perfect.
What was helpful is that you guys came up with some suggestions and things that we think of when we talk about, which is kind of I think the whole focus with wanting all of you to meet, to kind of brainstorm and discuss. So, I mean, recognizing that moving the band concert could free up another day for athletics, and also was a nice, I mean, yeah, that was never mentioned in the various meetings that we've had to discuss that. Yeah, so.
Yeah, so it's nice to have another makeup day. You'll obviously need that date for weather or for one of these that they're going to miss. So.
Well, thanks, JoJo, for doing that. And it certainly appears that we do have a consensus. I do think it's important that we got together as representatives of athletics and of the fine arts, and I do believe that there has been, and not just since I've been on the board, but going back, and don't want to get into any specific instances, but I do believe that there's sometimes been a disconnect between athletics and fine arts, and with your leadership moving forward, it's just good to get folks talking together, and really appreciate you taking the lead on that. I will say again that I do think that this whole thing was handled, and do appreciate your stepping in to find a solution that works for everyone, or at least that where everyone has input. And with that, I would like to make a motion, and I think this, to do it properly, should probably be 2 parts. The first motion I'd like to make would be to rescind the motion that I made that passed at May 26th to use the March dates for the band trip.
So you're gonna make a motion to rescind, okay? And I will support that. I will support your motion to rescind the the date. Okay.
I would say, I mean, the motion is to rescind the motion completely, so it doesn't exist anymore.
Okay, so not to go back and then vote on the April 5th through the 11th, correct?
Well, that's my intent after, assuming,
Okay.
if this motion
Okay.
passes.
Okay, so I will support, any discussion on that? I mean, who was all at that meeting was everybody present at that meeting? I don't have the information, who was present at that meeting?
Oh, and I do have, I believe it was, the vote was, the four affirmative was myself, Director Yuhan, Director Sather, and yourself, Chair Addy. Then there was one dissenting vote from Director Lotiger, and Director Sorkin abstained. So there was a 4-1 vote according to the minutes.
Okay.
Who were the representatives from Fine Arts and Athletics at this?
Jack Gritzmacher, Kevin, and Chris Chad. And then Todd was there, Angie was there, myself, and then it was Jamie Linseth, Paula Madden, and John Wagner. I had also reached out to Deanna, but she had an appointment and couldn't, and then I got her.
What sports, I'm not real familiar, but what sports do they represent?
Track, baseball, and softball.
Okay. I'm just wondering, though, your motion that make a motion and then to vote on it, and either one of the coaches, I'm just wondering if that's not a conflict of interest because it directly affects your sport.
There's no money involved, so there's no conflict of
Yeah.
interest.
And this didn't come up at our May meeting if there was, and I don't believe there is either.
We spent a lot of time on this, and there's been a lot of time to think about it, a lot of time for conversation and meetings, all kinds. So, and as Kelly just said, there were information always, and today too that hadn't been considered in other meetings. So, just because something didn't come up at one meeting doesn't mean it's.
Okay.
I'm fine with Director Schoberg making that motion. If there's issues and we need to, I will make the motion rather than Matt. But I'm fine with Director Schoberg making that motion.
And I will still support.
And I'm not sure that conflict of interest only regards monetary situations, Jeff.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table to rescind the vote, or the motion by Director Schoberg, and I'll support it. Any more discussion? Can I get a roll call vote to rescind Director Schoberg's initial motion, please?
Director Lotiger,
Yes.
myself, Director Sather is a yes. Director Addy,
Yes.
Director Sorkin,
Yes.
Director Gentilini,
Yes.
Director Yuhan,
Yes.
Director Schoberg.
Yes.
The motion passes to rescind the motion from May 26th.
The next step would be to reinstate your original suggested dates of April 5th through April 11th. I'll make that one.
Or
We'll move on. So so we got a motion on the table to go back to original dates of April 5th through 11th, and you made the motion, Holly?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I believe Kelly supported.
Okay, I didn't hear it yet. Supported by Director Taylor?
Stay there.
Yep. Any discussion on that?
I would only offer a friendly amendment that we as a board, we accept the recommendation of the committee, which is not only to move the band trip from April 5th to 11th, but to move the spring concert to a Sunday, at least for next year. That was represented, that was okay, or what that we heard the report was okay by the folks on that call.
Do you accept that friend amendment, Polly?
Well, let's discuss it a little bit, because I don't know that the board ever approves concert things like that. I mean, they work them in, they've talked about this in committee, they've agreed to do it, and I think we can just leave it at that. We approve the calendar of academic calendar and teaching days, but we don't get into approving concert days or play days or dates and things like that.
I think dates just in case they need to, correct, Matt? In case they need to move it.
You know, I mean, I don't want to get into it. I trust that Ms. Scott will see that the spirit of what was discussed in the committee hearing is upheld, and we'll just leave it at that. Forget that I even mentioned it.
Yeah, and I trust it.
So on that, Rachel, you got.
One other thing I'd like to say, I think that committee or something similar like that should be an annual event. Spent far too much time with this band trip that I think if they could have this annually and iron out the details before it comes to us, that'd be great.
And I would just to, add to that, and I don't want to belabor this at all, but I think it'd be great if, we got together before seasons and decided what were the appropriate games for the pep band to be at, and all of those kinds of things, and remind folks what important dates may be coming up as far as if teams advance in section tournaments, as far as if teams go to the state tournament, maybe talk about those kinds of things, so we don't end up in some of the situations that we've ended up in.
But Jojo.
Okay, I didn't know if I could talk in the middle of that. I agree with John. It seems like every school around here in the fall and in the spring when they have concerts, every AD is calling saying, oh, we got to cancel next Thursday. Junior high has band or whatnot. And honestly, it shouldn't be that way. In my first year, I was at both as well. We did talk about band dates, and we had at the activities calendar meeting, I did these band dates. Right away, they said, oh, how many games do you have on that? And at first, I said, well, it shouldn't really be that way. We should be able to work with you and schedule around them. So I will work hard to do that in the future as well. And Angie could speak on this, but Angie and I have talked at the band trip. Neither of us had been here for the last one. I've only been here year. She's been here, I think, Angie, correct me if I'm wrong, but it really wasn't on our radar. It didn't, we've never experienced it. I know they said the AD was never a part of making those dates up. They just, Jack and Kevin would find a date that worked and they would go with it. Maybe it just hasn't affected so many groups in the past, so many years that they've gone, but we will definitely be ready for this situation come 3 years from now when they're planning the next.
Okay, very good. Very good, thank you. So at 6.0, with all the discussion being had, can I get a roll call vote, please, to approve this?
Yes. Director Sather's a yes. Director Addy.
Yes.
Director Sorkin. Yes. Director Gentilini.
Yes.
Director Johan.
Yes.
Director Schulberg.
Yes.
Director Loudegger.
Yes.
And the motion passes 7-0.
Thanks, Jojo.
Thanks, Jojo.
Thank you.
7.0, approved administrative restructuring plan.
Mr. Chair, we had a study session a while back and talked about having Ms. Williams oversee the Dean of Students up in the Franklin for a stipend of $10,000 and posting for a 0.4 FTE Dean of Students, and we would recommend that the board go ahead and pass that tonight.
motion to approve the administrative structuring plan?
I will make that motion.
Moved by
Director
Director
Lotiger.
Lotiger. Support
We're,
by Director Sather. Any discussion?
I saw that, where does the $10,000 come from? I mean, she's getting relieved of other duties by the .4, so I know that's what Jeff got when he was overseeing the principal duties at elementary. If it's just the same thing, but we didn't hire a .4, to my knowledge, to relieve him from other duties. So I don't know. She's getting relieved of other duties at Bogger during the day. I don't know why would you do $10,000.
Well, Jeff was getting $10,000 to do the evaluations and stipends, and Angie, I believe, was doing the majority of them at the, for at least the end of the school year here. I don't know if it was for the full school year.
Yep.
But also, it took a toll on people in the office and, with both the secretary and the school counselor. And they ended up picking up, the extra stuff that was going on in the office while Angie was gone. The .4 is to provide some help to cover for those times when Angie is gone, doing evaluations or as part of the, the meetings with the new curriculum and those kinds of things for the new high school and for the consolidation, so.
well, one question that I had, Jeff, is this already adjusted within the budget that we're gonna be talking about coming up next?
Yes. According to Spencer.
10,000 would be adjusted already in the budget, so we're having that discussion.
To your question, John, Angie will still be the full high school principal. So she is doing that full-time job and she's taking on the principalship of Franklin. Therefore, that's how I see that stipend above and beyond full-time position.
It was said in the study session, it was said in the study session that higher than .4, she would be relieved of other daily duties. So in my mind, she's trading duties from the high school once in elementary, and I don't see why they have to pay extra for that. That's just my opinion.
There are only so many duties that a dean of students can do. There are evaluation things that he or she can't do. Students cannot, I believe not represent special ed meetings and things like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff.
You're correct.
And so, and that, to go back, that's why I had suggested for a little bit more money, we should have gone with assistant principal. I could do more than I thought we'd get more bang from our buck. So I do see it, and as a stipend, I'm glad it's being written this way. That should be put in the contract, because the last time nothing was written, and this is a lot cleaner. Right? It's above and beyond her full-time duties at this time.
A question I'd have is, has the bargaining unit approved?
We haven't negotiated with them, if that's what you're referring to. I mean, it's Angie and Todd, obviously, are the bargaining unit at the moment. That'll expand in a couple days, but. And Angie, you can speak to that if you guys have a problem with it, I guess.
No,
I mean, that's highly inappropriate to suggest that, Jeff.
It suggests what?
To suggest the bargaining, I mean, it's a contract.
but she's one of the members of the bargaining unit. There's only two.
But
I don't think it's inappropriate to ask Angie.
I don't think we can decide that we're going to give a teacher extra duties and pay a teacher extra money without running into problems with the bargaining unit, can we? Even if the teacher says, yeah, I'm good, I'll take it. I mean, that is a concern of mine, and to Director Yuhan's point, we are offering almost a half-time person, and granted, there are only there are things that only a principal can handle.
So how is it any different with the Franklin meetings?
I wasn't a part of how that whole thing was set up. I was a part of voting on the budget last year.
Still made a
And frankly, I never understood it, and I still don't.
Well, there's another way this could be done. It could be, as a full-time position, you could designate a certain percentage as high school principal, a certain percentage as Franklin principal. With, I think now they're equalized as far as they used to have steps, A's, B's, and C's or something like that. But that would make a difference with the additional duties.
Okay, is there any more discussion on this 7.0? Kelly, any more discussion?
Yeah, there's two parts to it. There's a second part is posting for a .4 dean of students. Now, when we had the discussion about posting for that other position, and we threw it up on the board, and Jeff said it was posted until filled. I had assumed, and I think the discussion, I didn't go back and do the meeting, was that we would put both of these positions, post them open, and the dean of students also. But now, this is the last chance this board will have as a group pick a dean of students for one of will still be our buildings and our staff and our students. Now this throws it into the whole board, and the people that you had considered, or even other people who might want the job, now falls into the hands of the newly consolidated. So I think that went amiss here by not having already posted this to students instead of making that decision tonight. Now, instead of just our internal candidates who know our district better, now we're open to, all of the teachers, maybe one of them will pick it up and be voted on as a student. If it's internal before it goes external, which is, I understand, is what how it would work. So I'm disappointed about that.
Okay, any more discussion on 7.0?
I see nothing wrong with the way it's written to give the $10,000 stipend. But on the other hand, I know this year she was given extra for doing evaluations. Now I guess it would seem to me that the evaluations would come under that $10,000 instead of on top of 10,000. Correct, Jeff?
That's the way I would see it.
That's the way I would see it, yeah.
Okay, any more discussion on 7.0? Okay, none being had, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Director Addy,
Yes.
Director Sorkin, Director Gentilini, Director Gentilini,
Yes.
Director Yuhan,
No.
Director Schulberg,
No,
Director Lauderker,
Yes.
and myself, Director Slipper, is a yes. That passes 5-2.
All right, 8.0, discussion on potential action on the 2021 budget.
Where would you like to start?
Just go ahead.
I just gotta share my screen here. So, oh man. Last week, this was thrown in front of you guys, and it won't stay on my screen. Obviously you had already voted on some reduction on the May 26th meeting. About 2 weeks ago, Noel and Spencer came here and asked Angie, Todd, and I. They said we needed to do another 400,000. So we threw some reluctant recommendations their way, and that's what you guys saw last week. And what you saw was the ADSIS program going away, doing a reduction in grade 3, grade 6, 2 custodians, and we were looking at reducing bus routes. That got us to that number. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Tell us about the 1.0 secondary math science. What would that be? Was that because of nutrition and social studies?
Well, as a part of that 7.3 that you had initially reduced, what Spencer didn't know at that moment in time was one of the 1.0 of that reduction was math and science over in Gilbert, that he was on a tier 1 license, so we had to reduce that one, but have to hire him back because we still have that need. So it's not an addition to anything that we've done before. It's just it was a licensure issue, and Spencer didn't know that.
So does that throw us into, this is a probationary teacher, does that throw us into a different situation?
If I'm thinking correctly, this year was his second year, so no.
Okay, and so we might be able to find a tier 4 teacher.
Yeah.
So wouldn't it be prudent to go out and see if we can find a fully qualified licensed teacher?
Our intent was to post for this position tomorrow, if you approve this.
Should have known about that a lot earlier, because now again, that throws the posting and the choice into a larger board that doesn't know our district at this point in time anyway. And then the same with the social studies. What's that scenario? 4.4.
Angie, do you know what happened there?
That one would be, if we made Susan Ellison full-time.
Oh, that's the dean of, if you approve the dean of students, that would be, that's right.
And those are a lot of ifs in a.
Well, you just did, so yes, that is. You just approved that, so that one will be added. Might not be social studies, but it'll be 0.4 addition. How about that?
But isn't that dependent upon a certain person becoming the dean of students?
I said it might not be social studies, but you can count that it will be a 0.4 addition.
Because of.
You don't know who it is.
I know, but would that be because that 0.4 would be assuming or taking over some classes of a person that you're thinking of for the dean of students that
Yes.
you haven't even advertised for?
Correct.
Okay, so that's not right.
What's not right?
We haven't posted and advertised for the dean of students. We don't know who's going to apply. We don't know who's going to be the best person for the job. And so now we're already, what would you say, planning on something we don't know the answer to?
Did you? No, nothing.
Or what? We don't know if we would have a hole. Do we?
We don't, but we also, budgetary, we have to be ready to have the addition of a 0.4 needed if a person is elected from within our school district or hired from within our school district currently. I mean, we still have to look for it and watch for it on the budget. So regardless of who's going to be in that could change our budget by that 0.4. And if they end up coming from it doesn't matter who's filling it. So social studies could be removed from their potential addition of 0.4 and leave it at that.
Yes, and it might not be social studies.
Yeah, how I see it is just a potential addition of a 0.4.
And there could be somebody else that would want to fill out a little bit more and then take on that 0.4. Anyway.
as far as the 2 custodial positions, my understanding, in speaking with Noel as well, that he had stated it would make sense if we're looking at potentially decreasing by 2 custodians, that they'd move into the positions that are open within that district or within our newly consolidated district. So I wouldn't be comfortable, because there's 2 spots that are supposed to be open, so they should be able to slide into those positions. So I would not be comfortable with decreasing custodians,
So are
because
they,
there's still a need. And this was a conversation that just took place on last week, Friday. So Thursday or Friday.
so how's that gonna work with the contract if they go from ours, our school, our building to their building? How's it gonna work, Jeff, contractually?
We don't know. I mean, is the honest answer. I mean, they have asked me for an opinion on, because the reality is for the next 12 months, there's going to be 2 ASME contracts until that gets negotiated and it turns into one. And so there's going to be some turf battles there without a doubt. So I don't have an answer for you. I know that the conversation with ASME, I think, ended in each side needs to follow whatever contractual obligations for posting and movement that are currently in place. That certainly leaves a lot of gray area, and that topic has, I don't know, there's going to be a lot of goofy situations like this that are going to have to be worked out.
And the same thing, you know, the same thoughts with the 3rd and the 6th grade teacher. If we have to decrease those class sizes and, you know, drop a section because of numbers, well, you know, my feeling is we need to take care of the people that are in our district and in Virginians, the people that are currently employed between the 2 districts. We need to take care of those people before we start hiring out. And my understanding is Virginia did just hire a few grade level teachers, and I have a hard time with that. I mean, we should have been looking at both districts and looking into the future and what we needed, rather than being hiring from outside the district right now when we're trying to find positions for the people we currently have and who have been with us for a while. It just doesn't seem right to me.
I agree with you in sentiment, partially, Brandy, and mostly that laid off 7 points, whatever. Now we were thinking of another one, 8.3, and Virginia's been hiring, and we had maybe given them their notices of termination earlier. They might have been able to apply for something.
But Holly, I don't want to beat a dead horse, and you know, I don't want to keep bringing up what could have been or should have been or what. There's no point to that. We need to come up with solutions and be here talking about solutions to the problems we have at the moment. Not talking about what we should have done, in March. So
isn't that basically what you were saying, though? That we should have been looking at both sides of the district.
Well, this just happened. My understanding is they just hired people this past meeting that they had, and that's recent. I mean, everybody knows that consolidation is coming on July 1st, so I'm not looking back months ago, back in March or anything like that. I'm looking at like last week. You know, those things shouldn't be happening.
Actually, if I might just interject, Brandy, to your point, on the agenda for Wednesday are items to hire a total of 4 teachers, including 2 full-time elementary that we're being asked to approve on.
Right, and I agree. And it doesn't designate what positions that they will be there look for, which positions that they even interviewed for, and that would have been helpful to know that. So I don't know, are we on the same page there? Matt is thinking that, you know, they're hiring some as soon as Wednesday, that, you know,
Yes, there's several hires on the agenda for one.
I'm looking at it, yeah, and
So how many of our laid off teachers were even in the running for those jobs? I mean, did anyone get any interviews at all? Because Virginia has known that we laid off a bunch of teachers. So they should have been looking at that seriously.
we've got special ed, extra in our district, or, I mean, people qualified, 2 elementaries are here, secondary, position, we don't know. We don't know if we.
And, you know, as far as those people that got termination non-renewals, you know, there's always the hope, those people are, you know, they always have the hope that they're going to be called back. You know, just because you get a termination non-renewal doesn't always mean that you're going to be, you're jobless and you're not going to have a job with our district. That just means we need to see where the needs are, and you may be called back. So some of those people may not have, you know, applied if they needed to apply to, you know, the positions that were open in Virginia or elsewhere, you know, so.
I don't think usually people wait around to be called back. I think they hit the ground running and start looking for another job, so.
It depends on if there's conversations going on with them, though, Polly. You know, if there's been conversations with them that, you know, we believe you're going to be hired back, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, you're right, you know, conversations, but I don't know if those conversations happen with these hiree, or these, recommendations for hire for Wednesday, but that's just the way it is.
So I have a question about these 2 custodian drivers. Does Parkview have 2 openings right now?
That is my understanding from Noel.
Are they custodian drivers?
Yeah. No,
Okay.
they're just custodians.
Okay. And,
And,
they
I mean,
full-time?
the state Parkview has 2 openings. Sounds like these people are going to move right over there. Is that a guarantee that these 2 custodian drivers from our district are going to be working at the Parkview?
I don't know that. I'm not in that loop.
Are those drivers?
Like I said, I you know, Noel I spoke to him last week because I had concerns about this list of stuff, and, you know, we're going to be one consolidated district on the 1st, and I wanted to know what the situation was and you know, what positions were open in Virginia, because we do have this list in front of us. And I was told that there's going to be 2 custodial positions open in Virginia, and it would make sense for our 2 Eveleth-Gilbert custodians to move into those positions. So I'm going based on what Noel told me and what his word is. So I don't feel that we should decrease those custodians.
No, what you need to understand though, Brandy, is on this piece of paper, this is old Eveleth-Gilbert budget. So you're essentially taking those off of the Eveleth-Gilbert budget and you're moving them on to Virginia. They're not losing their job. It's just a money shift.
But what do we have to guarantee that? I mean, again.
Well, it doesn't matter in 2 days. But it's just illustrating what it looks like today. What's that?
I was just gonna say, even if we approve a budget that is not righted, which I refuse to approve anything that's not right-sided today. So I'm just saying that right now, we have to go in with a righted budget, where we're sitting in the black and not the red. And even if we did have even if we said that those 2, you know, we're not gonna decrease those 2 positions, there's no guarantee come the 1st that those 2 positions are not going to get decreased again. I mean, we still, like, there's no guarantee, because in 2 days it's not Eveleth-Gilbert district anymore, regardless. So that's not a guarantee in action of a job either. I mean, Noel spoke about it last week at our last combined meeting, that there were the 2 positions over at Parkview, and that is what he saw for those custodian positions being able to just move over, but we can't keep them on the Eveleth-Gilbert budget, right? We don't have money for it.
Kelly, you can deficit spend. We've done it for
Yeah,
the
we've been
last.
doing it for 2 years.
Okay, and now that our money's all gonna be pooled and combined, what difference does it make? Balancing a budget at this point in time is really a moot point.
I think it is, what I said last week, I think it is about tying up what we need to tie up for the Eveleth-Gilbert School District and being responsible to go in with a balanced budget. That is the difference that makes for me.
But Virginia's isn't balanced either.
Yes, it is.
But not, it's 2 million in the red. I'm saying,
It's not 2 million in the, wait a minute, it's not 2 million in the red.
I don't care what anyone believes, whether it's necessary or not. I strongly feel that I don't bring all my baggage into a new start and then assume that everyone else fixes it for me. I would like to actually take some ownership and work to fix that, because that's our responsibility. And we said that we were going to do this. The reason that we have not had a balanced budget was because we were waiting to find out what was going to be happening. We weren't sure what was going to be happening. Now we do, and now is the time to balance our budget.
Jeff, what did you say about 2 million in the red?
They are not 2 million in the red. They have a balanced budget right now.
Meaning that they didn't spend more than they took in, that expenditure, revenues over expenditures.
That is correct.
Okay. Doesn't show that on this one. It shows 2.275, and I know Spencer referred up to the debt service is the same amount of number, but still debt service.
That's bond payments that have already been expended.
So when do we get our audited? Oh, we don't get the audited books until what, December?
Right.
No numbers. But anyway, balancing your budget just means that you don't spend more than you took in. It doesn't mean that you didn't have a fund balance that you subtract from. Just like anybody's personal finances. But the concern I have about custodians is we still have this, approximately the same number of students. We have the employees. We have the same number of buildings. So we have the same need. How can we do without custodians when the things are basically the same as last year? And how is it that Parkview could not do without replacing its 2 custodians?
I have no idea about Parkview, and I would concur that it isn't the greatest situation in the world, but when we looked at it, we didn't want to, I mean, we're down to people at this point, and didn't want it to be all from one group, so we kind of tried to level it out.
I know Mike is on the call. Maybe Mike Hope, maybe we can hear from him, or I know he was on. But
I'm here, if you can hear me. Can you guys hear
I can
me?
hear you, Mike.
Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, regarding the 2 custodians, now, of course, everyone knows that we do all of our driving. And I was looking at this, and then over the last week, trying to, I guess, streamline our routes and maybe even eliminate a few of the routes. So if that happens, like what's on the next probably topic you're going to talk about, and then you don't have these 2 custodians, I see it getting real difficult of getting people here, the kids. I mean, yes, I agree. I mean, you can make designated stops out there, but our parents are conditioned to have their kids picked up, especially the little ones, at a pretty convenient place for them, which I'm saying, I mean, we should probably change that a little bit. But, and I am working on that for Bob Voss. But without them 2 custodians, because over the course of a day, an average day with the shuttle going back and forth, and the different groups that are going to food occupation and welding and everything else, I mean, we've got people going all the time, and we're always grabbing someone to do the mail and everything else. And then if we get a lot of snow, then they do our shoveling. So it's just one of those things that
with 2 custodians, I just think we would be in tough shape. With
So
not having-
Mike, have these two, do these custodians know who, I mean, is there 2 custodians that we know that are actually the 2 that are gonna get laid off? And if so, have these 2 had any sort of contact with Superintendent of Virginia or interviewed with the Parkview at all? I mean, because that concerns me that, I get it that, yeah, Parkview has a couple openings, but I wanna guarantee that our 2 custodians, that if they do get laid off, that they won't miss a day of work.
Not to my knowledge, I don't think anybody's talked to anybody, but I don't know that.
I think the idea wasn't, we weren't laying anybody off, they just were gonna get moved.
Okay, they're gonna be moved, but have these individuals had any contact with anybody in Virginia?
No.
There's not 2 individuals identified. What Noel had said last week was that it's not clear as to how anyone would be selected, whether it would be, you know, preferably open it up voluntarily for people to move over into those positions. And if not, then it would have to be looked at whether it be seniority or what on the basis of contract. But that was talked about last week. There's no for sure of it's these 2 people, because there may be people that will voluntarily move over to that too. So he wasn't sure. It was brought up last week on these suggestions.
Well, if that's the case, Kelly, going back to the cost of 2 custodians and balancing a budget and our expenditures, it's just a matter of taking the cost of these custodians off of our budget, but they're not, that money isn't going away, that going to go into the consolidated Rock Ridge budget. So, you know, I just don't understand your point about having to take that off of our books, because the expense isn't going away. The other question I have is, are the custodians in Virginia full-time custodians, or are they part-time? Because our custodian drivers are full-time. Would they be reduced to just custodians at less than time?
It's my understanding their custodians are full-time.
Okay, and so where does that leave us, our need for the drivers that we have, the driving part of it?
They hire separate drivers.
Okay, so that sounds a little complicated there too, doesn't it?
No, it's actually far less complicated than what we got going on right now.
So what, they don't need any more drivers, they would just use our custodian drivers as custodians only?
Right.
Okay, so they get, I mean, so their custodial need would be replaced by their 2 openings, but we would be 2 custodials short as far as the work, the job, the duties, the need. I don't understand.
The driving part,
And custodian too, custodian part and driving part. So it makes sense to me to take away, you know, if the buildings were built and this was 2 years down the road, you move people around where you need, okay? But we still have our own buildings. Just like we did, and we have the same kids to transport because we haven't changed bus routes yet either.
So if those don't come up, then where are other budget options?
And that's just it. I mean, we were told we needed to go 400,000 more, and this is a suggestion. If you want to do something else, that is certainly up to you.
I say we do nothing and just leave it as it is. And because if you take away the custodians, you're adding a math. That 1.0 math is probably going to cost more than 1 custodian bus driver.
Actually, it doesn't.
Well, does or doesn't with benefits and everything?
Nope.
And then you got almost a half time, whether it's social studies or another class, so you got to take away, decrease here and add there. You're saying that we'll zero us out for about $500,000. I mean, we don't have any numbers there of what these things are worth either. What these numbers are.
What are you getting at? I don't understand what you're getting at.
Well, I'm getting at, I don't think we need to reduce, and that we shouldn't reduce our custodian drivers. I'm not sure that the 7.3 FTE that we already reduced is already in here. It appears. Now to take decrease by 3 more teachers, 2 custodian, and then add a math and a social studies. I don't know where the numbers are to add up to that 450,000, or I have a net expenditure of 520.
Yeah, I have to say, I share kind of what I'm hearing is your frustration, Polly. I mean, it's June 29th. This is the first time we've had this discussion. Virginia passed their budget. They certainly had the discussion long before this. I mean, and all of a sudden we're put kind of a tough spot right here, to be honest with you.
I agree. I agree, Matt. And let me get on my soapbox just one more time. It's the last time. You know, we should have been talking budget. We can have one budget in January. In January, you start making projections and you start counting heads and you start talking about formula. Now, and last year too, we got about 3 pages of whatever. The school board never had any input on where we were overspending, underspending, where we're rat-holing money, you know, and spending, and all that's going to roll over. We got $100-some thousand in staff development and picked and counted. I don't even know if we ever spent it, $45,000. Those are the types of decisions board members are supposed to make on curriculum, programs, funding, you know, what you spend your money on. And the boards over the last, I don't know how many years that I've been watching, and now I'm on the board, don't have any input into that. We don't even know. We don't even know where the money goes, where it's not going. So you're right. This is the more than 11th hour to even be discussing the budget. I'm sorry, it's a dirty shame that it happens this way.
If you're suggesting that was my problem, I just found out about this, I think last Thursday, or the Thursday before, so.
Jeff.
Whatever, you know what, just make a decision, okay, let's move on. I mean, good Lord.
Good Lord, take your responsibility when you have it. Business managers and superintendents don't throw something in front of a board like this and make May and then say, oh, here it is. You know,
Polly, can we?
That's it.
I respect what you're. I respect you, Polly, but can we just not beat? I mean, we got 2 days, so let's, you know. I mean, not beat them up. Okay, so.
Okay, so
make a decision.
So, okay, on 8.0, the potential action. Okay. The action would be to approve the budget. Is that what the board understands? With the as presented. But I would just like this. I would just like to add that in approving this, that I want to make sure, because I just feel for our employees. Okay, I just want to make sure that the 2 custodial driver openings that are going to become available, or are going to be decreased, I should say, that they do in fact get a job in Virginia. Okay, I do not want to just say, well, you know, we filled those positions with other people who are more qualified. I mean, I don't want to see that. I want, you know, and I would hope that by decreasing this, that these 2 individuals are picked up right away. But we don't know.
Bill, you don't have that insurance either way. You don't have that insurance. If we increase ourselves, in other words, cut our own whatever, cut our own throats, you don't know if we do it or if we don't do it, that it might have no assurance that those custodians will be moved over there. And again, we need them here. Why are we going to decrease them here, throw them over there? Reduce transportation expenses, reduce bus routes. What does that mean? Where's the number figure? How does that figure out? And that's part of our reduction, this budget. What dollar figure is attached to that? I say we do not. We just nothing different. No cuts, no additions. The new board's going to decide it. Just leave it at that. No matter what we do today, the new board could reverse it.
I agree. Any action that we take today is going to have absolutely no relevance to. And I don't think, I certainly don't feel prepared to take any action first.
Okay, so there's any more discussion on
assuming-
this? So let's move on
This
this,
is
all right?
assuming we have, well, wait, now this is also the assumption that we have only 28 incoming kindergarten. Way more resident students than that. How do we know that more are coming? I was on the site today, and we've got resident students in our district, let's see, resident ADMs for all years, and for this projected, we've got like 70, 77, 74, 78. We might not have drawn them all into our district. These are residents that potentially should be going, and that, you know, their parents are taxpayers, they are resident, they are assigned to our district, but we don't get them because they open and enroll everywhere, so other, anyway.
So Jeff, are these, I'm gonna ask the question again, are these, I'm stuck on this custodial driver. Are those openings in Barkley, are they full-time?
Yep.
They are full-time. Okay, so there, does Virginia have any part-time people that would possibly, do they have any part-time custodians?
I'm not aware. I don't know.
Part-time bus drivers that would want a custodial?
They do have part-time bus drivers, yes.
Okay. All right. I'm just stuck on that. I'm just stuck on the fact that you know, decreasing 2 custodians, that I just have this gut feeling that they're not going to be, you know, they're not going to be getting a full-time position or even that position in the Virginia district. I just have a tough time with that. It's not a gut feeling. It's just how I'm feeling.
Well, here's how you can look at it too. You're not decreasing anybody tonight, but even if you were, in 2 days, they have callback rights to Rock Ridge. So you can't hire, you can call it Virginia, you can call it Eveleth, whatever you want to call it. Nobody can hire anyone back until the ones that are laid off are given preference on those.
Because ours are full-time now, I would expect them to have a full-time position in Virginia.
No, it's not Virginia anymore, though.
I mean, in the Rockridge district, I would expect them to, if ours are full-time, and they get laid off. Virginia has, or Rockridge or Parkview, the Parkview Elementary has 2 openings that they will slip to that our 2 custodian drivers will slip into that positions in a full-time status. Okay. That's just, I'm done now, I guess.
Even if that happens, even if that happened, if you could be assured of that, you know, we are still going to be short. The work, the health, what they do of the 2 custodians and drivers, I think makes sense that the custodian driver on our side relates to bus routes because it's drivers. And are we not going to need bus routes as last year? Are we not going to need the same custodial help as last year?
We should not need the same bus routes as we have.
Drivers.
I mean,
Okay.
well, the reality is we have half the kids Virginia does, and we have more bus routes. So I mean that in itself is a problem.
So Jeff, can we,
Who's worked out those bus routes?
so Jeff,
We just heard from Mike that
so Jeff,
Mm-hmm.
the reduction of bus routes is on the agenda for reduction as well, right? For these budget cuts,
Yep.
go back and forth in between to see it, but correct?
Yes.
So even if we didn't vote on, so even if we didn't have the teachers or the custodians or whatever on the list for decreasing, we can still make the choice to reduce bus routes for
Well,
cost savings.
Right, and we were working on the logistics of that. regardless of anything that happens, that should probably happen anyway. And contractually, that would have to be the first ones to go would have to be our contracted routes.
Is there any
Is the
disagreement?
contract over,
Yes,
the contract over June 30th?
it is. Go ahead, Kelly.
Is there any disagreement with one of the board members with the decrease of the 3.0 teachers? Recommendation of that?
Well, if we have to cut there, we have to cut there. I mean, I guess that's kind of my thought, that if we have to cut one of the sections of third grade and one section of the sixth grade, if that's what we have to do, that's what we have to do. But I do want to keep in mind that those third graders are first year MCA testers, and that's a difficult time for them. And the fifth grade going into sixth grade was a difficult year, and I know in the past we've gone back, and I want to say even as late as August, and had to add sections before because of enrollment and class sizes getting larger than what they should be. And I want to say the sixth grade class was at like 20, wasn't it 25 or 27 or something?
There's 53 kids in there right now.
Okay, which would be 26, yeah.
Shows 55 on this.
One's
Yeah,
55 and one's 53. Third grade might be the 53. Yeah, sixth grade's 55.
Yeah.
So when you start getting to, that 28 per classroom, I think that's a lot of kids in a classroom. I mean, and this board has historically wanted to keep class sizes small. I guess that's my feelings about that. If
That's
we have
great.
to cut, we have to cut that. And I would be in favor of reducing bus routes, but I'm not in favor of increasing the custodial positions when there's two positions in Parkview.
So
Those
then
are my thoughts.
I would entertain, could I make a motion at approving the recommendations put forward for the budget on reduction of the 3 teaching positions, reviewing the bus routes with a plan for reduction of those, and the custodians and drivers will be Rockridge's problem to figure out that.
Can you hear me, Kelly?
Yeah,
Can you repeat that one more time, what you said?
I made a motion to decrease the 3.0 teaching position and reduce the transportation expenses by reviewing and trying to reduce bus routes. And that the custodian and driver situation is going to have to get addressed with Rockridge.
So you would keep them. So you would keep them on our budget, and
We would right now
to
review on our budget, and our budget would not be balanced right now.
I would second that.
Who are the 2 teachers moved to vacant positions? What's the situation?
One
2
of those
teachers,
One,
one of those teachers, we may be taking, okay, so coming up in our agenda here, we have the discussion regarding the resolution we passed at the last meeting regarding Jessica Krolich. If we take action on that and rescind that action and vote and have her back, there was discussion she would go into a special ed position. So
she would go into special ed, and the other spot was actually open. I had left an open spot in case Nikki wanted to go back to the classroom. So no one gets affected by that.
but then if she's a dean of students, that leaves an opening for dean of students. Oh, I see. Talking about another dean of students.
So technically, there wouldn't be a reduction in the teachers because Jess Krolich, if we rescind that vote, would go into the special ed teaching position. She has a special ed teaching license. But that's later on in our agenda.
So that's not a reduction, and is that what you're saying?
Right. As
No,
far as
no.
an employee is, go ahead, Jeff.
It's still a reduction because that third grade position doesn't exist anymore. She, as a individual, is just moving into a different position that's already in the budget.
Correct.
So it doesn't affect any person, nor does the sixth grade reduction. It doesn't affect a person, but it does affect the budget.
And the sixth grade one? Explain the sixth grade vacant position again?
I had left a opening in the event that Nikki chose to go back to the classroom. So there was nobody currently in that position. So it goes away. The position goes away and it goes off the budget. It doesn't affect any person.
I would be comfortable with what Kelly recommended. So I will support Kelly's motion.
Okay. Alrighty. Any more discussion? I need discussion on that, to approve this budget with, basically, teachers keeping the 2.0 custodian drivers, but looking at a plan to reduce the transportation expenses. Anybody have any problem with that?
We don't have,
I guess I
we don't
just,
have a number for that, so how?
yeah, I don't know what we're voting on, to be honest.
Go ahead.
My understanding with Kelly, if I'm not breaking up, because some people are breaking up in conversations, but if I understand Kelly's motion correctly, she's making a motion to reduce the 3.0, the 3 teaching positions and reduce transportation. And that would be the only budget cuts that we are making in this action.
I think what the concern that Matt and Polly are having is that there's no financial that's tied directly to what that cost is going to be. I am going with the fact that we are told that we're over $400,000 out of balance with our budget, and the teacher positions are under the 400,000. So with that, we're still going to be coming up short. And I feel that we have to make some level of decision making for our budget to try to write it as best we can right now.
And Jeff, one more question.
We're not going to do that, but at least it will get us closer, and then the custodian stuff can be figured out with Rockridge.
And Jeff, just one more question. If the 6th grade class or the 3rd grade class ends up, we have people transferring over or whatever the case may be, and those class sizes get larger, we always have the option of opening up a section, either or both grades down the road, correct?
Well, we've done it the day before school starts.
Okay.
Not the most ideal thing in the world, but.
Yeah, can you tell us what the rough cost is for 1 FTE for a teacher?
Sure. It's going to range, depending on who it is, between 60 and 65,000
per year. But that would be not necessarily including the benefit.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's assuming that they take full benefits.
Is that a first year teacher?
Yes. Or second, somewhere in that range.
Yes, that's the low end of the spectrum, and that's certainly not average.
No.
But even what would be the high end? Where are we sitting at for the highest?
The high end, you're in the 90 to 95 range.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Even with 3 of those positions, we're still well under the 400,000.
Just so you understand, as far as transportation goes, we generally, and this is very general, put a budget number of $60,000 on a bus route, on a route. We are fairly confident we can eliminate 2 right now. We are hoping for 3.
And that's on our side, not the Virginia side?
What's that?
That's eliminating bus routes on our side and
Yes.
any elimination of bus routes on the side?
Yep.
Any other Virginia side that we know of?
No. And that number will go down, that number will go down some more, because, just to give you a preview of what's coming in the next year, I mean, you're gonna have to decide on attendance boundaries, and you're gonna have to make a cutoff date of when you're going to start enforcing those boundaries. And then you're gonna stop, at some point in the next 2 years, I would hope that you would stop all the crossover, and that's gonna eliminate some more bus routes. For next year, we don't have any plans of forcing anyone to go to a different school. Probably not the year afterwards either, but once that first elementary opens, then some decisions are gonna have to be made, as far as attendance boundaries and bus routes, because you're not going to want to continue to have a bus from Old Virginia District heading into Fayette Township and filling up and heading north. And those efficiencies are going to have to.
I agree.
Those efficiencies are going to need to be worked out, and you'll probably get another 3 to 4 routes out of that as well. So, but initially, I do think that we feel real confident about 2. We're hoping for 3. We might not be able to get to that 3rd this year, but.
So with that being said, and looking at the teachers actually on the low end, looking at all 3 FTs on the low end, it could range from a 315,000 with 2 bus routes up to a 375,000 with 3 bus routes.
Yeah.
Savings and costs.
Yeah.
That's the contractual, right? I mean, we're talking contract busting. That's contract busting, Jeff, or is that our?
Well, contractually, those have to go first, yes.
Okay.
According to the ASME contract.
Okay.
So I heard somewhere else that it's 30,000 per bus route. You're saying 60,000.
Well, it's going to depend on the route, because we do have some routes that, I don't want to dive in too deep here, but if we have one of our custodian drivers that has a morning route and an afternoon route, that morning route and the afternoon route are fairly short because it has to fit within an 8-hour day. So those are cheaper routes. We're not looking at those routes. Those aren't the routes we're looking at. We're looking at the expensive rural routes.
But those are the contract.
They are not.
Okay, but those are the contract, the $30,000 a route ones, those are the contracted, not our route.
I don't think so.
Our routes are worth 1,000 and the contracted are worth 30,000?
I broke up a little bit there in the middle of that sentence. I couldn't quite catch it.
I said that our routes are the $60,000 per route, but our contracted routes are $30,000.
Other way around.
Contracted are more expensive.
Yes.
Not what I understand. Okay, one more question. $3 million that we have dedicated on the sheet is committed. Is that out of our general fund money? Yeah.
Yeah.
The $3 million that is committed to elementary, that's a general fund money.
Yep.
Yep.
Straight out of our general fund money.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, we would have had another, well, no, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that if you're talking that we are deficit spending by about $500,000 that has something to do with it, because we've been running $6 and $5 million and $4 million and $3 million fund balances. This year, it could have been about $3 million, but we've committed that. So we have to keep that in mind too. That we
The fund balance though doesn't our general funds doesn't have anything to do with our balanced budget. Because the budget is looking strictly at revenues and expenses. It's not looking at the general fund. So regardless of our general fund, it's not gonna make or break our budget. The budget is what we're taking in versus what we're spending.
Last year, we had $3.17 million fund balance. We had almost $5 million a year before. This year, we probably would have had the 3.4 million, except we have committed 3 million of that. And so, Jeff, am I not right or am I wrong? That brings us down to that. Because we certainly couldn't have gone from 3 million fund balance to $500,000 this year. It's got to be dependent upon preserving that 3 million.
Oh, it absolutely
That's
is.
why I asked you to be clever.
Yes, that's.
Okay.
And we are. I don't like making any statements, but we're trying hard to make sure that we don't have to spend that $3 million. I'll just leave it at that. It's kind of an insurance policy.
We could have. Yeah, I know.
Okay, I think
The
we've
consolidated,
discussed this enough. Do you feel confident that we can make a vote on this budget as presented by Director Sather? Okay, any more discussion on this?
Bill, I would like to say one thing. With this iPad I got here, probably a problem with the volume or something. I've only been getting bits and pieces of discussion.
Okay, it's Tom, the internet is, I think everybody's having the same problem. With the internet being sketchy. We're all getting bits and pieces.
I've had good reception, and I've been hearing everything everybody's saying, but there was times when Polly was speaking that it was in and out, and occasionally, or Kelly as well. Not bad, Kelly, but a little bit.
Okay. I've had more issues today than I've had in the past on myself.
Okay, so 8.0, with all the discussion had, Kelly, can I get a roll call vote, please, to approve this with your recommendation?
Yeah. And everyone knows that removing the custodian driver, those two positions.
Correct.
Director Sorkin? No. Director Gentilini?
No.
Director Yuhan?
Yes.
Director Schulberg?
No.
Director Lotiger? Director Lotiger?
Yes.
Director Sather is a yes. Director Addy?
No.
That motion fails 3-4.
Okay, moving along, discussion on potential action on the resolution 725 relating to termination of non-renewal of a teaching contract of a probationary teacher.
I would just like to make a motion to rescind the vote and the action that the board took to terminate and non-renew just the contract of Jess Krowich last week, and then to reinstate her to fill the position of a special ed teacher as originally intended.
I will support that.
We got a motion by Director Lotiger, support by Director Yuhan. Any discussion on this?
I guess I would just say, and I don't know, and I don't know, I wish we had legal counsel here. First, let me start by saying, is I wholeheartedly support what you're making the motion for, Brandy. And I'm supportive of that. I just don't know if it's proper that we someone makes a motion to rescind a motion who didn't vote for that motion to begin with. If you found what I said, and I guess I'm, you know.
I understand what you're saying, Matt, and I contacted the attorney with Bill's permission because I just wanted to know what needs to be done there and how it needs to be done. But in light of the information that we had received, an email that we had received from the union regarding that issue, as well as, you know, I don't know how much I can say because of confidentiality and privacy for her. But and if somebody else wants to make a motion, just like, you know, the athletic thing, and I volunteered to make the motion for you if it was going to be an issue, if somebody wants to make that motion instead of me, I'm totally okay with that. I'm fine with that, but I think I strongly feel that she was wronged in that situation, and I think that we need to make that right.
And I agree with that. And I would ask Jeff, without getting into the weeds, do you disagree with what the email message that we all received subsequent to last Tuesday's meeting?
I don't think I ever received that.
So first of all, Matt, technically, Randy is allowed to make a motion to rescind because if it's at a subsequent meeting, anybody can rescind. If it's at the same meeting and you want to reconsider, then only somebody who voted to make that motion to reconsider. So technically, yes, you can. It doesn't matter who would make that motion. And then second of all, Matt, just for clarity, why don't you explain what you're talking about, the communication that you got, because people watching this don't have any idea what.
Sure, and we got a communication from the union, and I had thought that basically indicated it, and again, I don't know how much of this, I wish we had counsel.
Essentially, what the union said was that they would support her being able to fill that position.
And they basically said that what we heard and what the motion that was made last Tuesday was based on was not true, is what was said.
But they sent you this. I know they sent all you an email demanding that position be posted.
Yep, I agree with you, Jeff. The union sent it to all board members.
Yes, that was where I was confused because we clearly did get that last week when we ended up, because I was not happy with it. I was not happy with, you know, it was a pretty direct email that we received. The expectation was those jobs are posted versus allowed for reassignment. And we had that discussion last week. So that was my understanding, and that is what really drove the resolution. So I don't know where all of a sudden this change is coming from exactly. It's, you know, supposedly there's, you know, it sounded like that was not the case, but I don't know any other way that I took that. You know, they're talking about some backstory stuff with administration, whatever. But how I took it, receiving an email from the union that it's an expectation that those two positions are posted for rather than reassigned. I thought that was a pretty clear thing of telling us that they had that expectation for that versus reassigned, which I did agree that is within Jeff Carey's.
And that was the email that we received prior to the board meeting where the action was taken, and yes, that email was received before the meeting. But a subsequent email came the following day from the union stating that they, you know, kind of given us the understanding of what took place there, and that they were comfortable with her being able to be put into that position, yes, and put into that special ed position. So like I said, with that additional information, I feel that, rescinding that vote, and placing her in that position as originally intended is the right thing to do.
And I agree with that.
Okay, so any more discussion on 9.0?
But isn't it that we would post that position? We terminated her, therefore the request was to post for that position and for the dean of students. And so if we post it, we have to go through the process of posting, advertising, interviewing. Maybe there are some other internal candidates, I don't know, but that was the request, posting part of it.
That was
But then
request.
apparently they went back on that and said they were okay with it. Am I getting that right?
Yes,
That's how I
for that position, yes.
that they are fine with reassignment with this position into the special ed. But last week was a different email that was received. That was an expectation it would be posted. So the email that I just reviewed again, that they would be fine with the reassignment. And I agree, and I felt, even last week, and Mr. Carey spoke of that does he have the ability to reassign? Yes. But was this a thing that he wanted to pick the fight with on it? No, not necessarily. So I am in support of us rescinding it and reassigning her into the special ed position, given that she has a license. She's been in our district for 3 years already.
And if a grade level position opens up, I would assume she'd have that option of, going into a different grade level rather than sped, but that's neither here nor there. I would like to make sure that we rescind that vote and reinstate her. It will be her 4th year, and she would be eligible for tenure. Correct? Signing the 4th contract. So.
Yep. Can you answer that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, all right, yeah, I agree with rescinding the motion and everything, but the point is that she was asked to waive her tenure and be on probation another year or more. And that's the crux of it.
And if the situation for that is because of lack of being able to observe enough times, I feel badly that that's put on her, because that shouldn't be. That's that should happen. Those
Correct.
Observations. So,
You're right. Right, through no fault of her own, that wasn't done, so that was an administrative mishap, I guess, and so it's not. You're right. It wasn't fair that it fell on her, and I understand that she had evaluations. So.
Okay, so we got a motion on the table to rescind the original resolution 725, reinstating that individual. We got a motion by Director Lotiger.
Support by Director Yuhan.
Support by Director Yuhan. Any more discussion? Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Director Gentilini. Director Gentilini.
What? Was that me?
Yes. For your vote.
What are we voting?
For rescinding resolution
On
725.
item number 9?
Yes.
I'll abstain.
Director Yuhan.
Yes.
Director Schulberg.
Yes.
Director Lotiger.
yes.
Myself, Director Sather's a yes. Director Addy.
Yes.
Director Sorkin.
Yes.
That passes 6-0 with 1 abstention.
Bill, I think we have a problem here because, the remote stipulations are that everyone can see each other and hear each other. We had a big problem this meeting with people hearing each other. So
Well, I mean, Tom can hear. I mean, does Tom have, can you hear Tom?
But it's been all of us, Bill, been all of us.
But it's not continual. I mean, we've been able to hold conversations. It's not a continual thing. I don't think it's a problem. Everybody can be seen. It's an occasional blip here and there. It's not, I don't see that as an issue that we need to take time on tonight. I mean, and we can't control MediaCom or AT&T or whatever internet site we're using for Wi-Fi. We can't, I mean, it's a situational thing. It's not an ongoing thing. We don't have those issues normally.
I think the big thing is, at least when things are getting broken up when you're speaking, and I did hear others, ask for someone to repeat what they had said. And I think that's the big part too, is to make sure we're taking time to make sure that everyone heard in case it did break up, to allow people to repeat and make sure that we understand and have clarification with what they were saying.
I agree. And one more thing, I'm glad that today we are able to see all of us. Sometimes we only get to see certain people, and that's part of it too. So.
Okay.
Hope that continues on with the next.
Okay, 10.0, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I will make that motion, Director Lotiger.
Motion by Director Lotiger. Support by Director Schober. This meeting is adjourned. Good night, everybody.
See you all on Wednesday.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.